Happy New Year's Eve, everyone. We have a much colder look we'll be building over the course of the next 10 days, and some pretty significant snows are on the way. I appreciate all my subscribers out there that have followed me throughout this year and have been following me for a long time. This channel is up to 218,000 subscribers now. I do daily updates, right around 27 videos a month. So I put out a lot of content. So if you are new to the channel and would like detailed weather breakdowns almost on a daily basis, follow me along in 2024 as I will keep you well ahead of the storm. So here's what it's going to look like in about 10 days from now. Definitely a much colder look encompassing a good part, if not almost all, of the entire lower 48. But how do we get there? We're not there quite yet, but we will be getting there because right now we're in the rebuilding phase where I lay out. We're coming off a very warm December, right? I mean, this is literally like the second warmest December on record, almost matching the December of 2021, and this is the snowpack. It's about 20% across the lower 48. This is right around about a 20-year low. So it's right now you have to rebuild the foundation as we're going to be laying down a pretty significant snowpack over the next 10 days, and that will definitely be allowed that colder air to funnel further south, and we get there by the teleconnections. The trend of colder air is going to be pushing southbound. So this is looking at the Arctic Oscillation. It's always a good sign if you want to have a colder trend heading into January, almost our coldest month of the year for a good part of the lower 48. You like to see these teleconnections trending negative, and they actually go decisively negative once we hit that second week of January. And the NAO, which is your North American oscillation, is also trending negative. So you got the pressing of the colder air from Canada pushing southbound, and that's going to be tapping into this more active subtropical jet stream where you're full in an El Nino type setup where we have a more active subtropical jet stream. So we see these low pressure centers come off the subtropical jet every 2 or 3 days or so, and they traverse across the south, right? They traverse across California, through the desert southwest, through Texas, up into the southeast, and eventually head up into the eastern seaboard. And that's exactly what we're going to find as these low pressures will be traversing across this flank over the next 4 days. So this takes you through the precipitation between now and say Friday morning. Has that trend, these low pressure centers coming off the west coast, bring some welcome rains right along the coastal areas or along the west coast, comes across the southwest, and then it taps into some of that Gulf moisture where literally from north and central Texas we'll be getting the precipitation, higher amounts further south. Then the heavier rain traverses across the southern flank here with that low pressure, and then comes up the eastern seaboard. You're kind of drier in the middle of the country, at least between now and Friday morning. But things change big time with that second piece of energy. Now you're having a much colder look come across. And by the time we head into Friday afternoon, we've got a pretty significant low pressure down to a 997 millibar setting up shop across the Texas Panhandle into western Oklahoma. And that's going to have some colder air associated with it. So you get the chillier rain further south and pretty much all of Texas here besides the Texas Panhandle. But if you live in the northern flank of Oklahoma, all that should be snow. That includes the western panhandle of Oklahoma, then as well as portions of the Texas Panhandle. That trends into a good part of Kansas, and that will be moving along. So you have that first snow that will be coming in for your Friday heading into your Saturday through Kansas, through Missouri, through portions of southern Illinois. Further south would be your all rain event. But as this continues to move up and then it taps into that low pressure center coming off the eastern seaboard, we could be looking at some pretty significant snows really setting up shop across the Appalachians, through eastern parts of PA, through New York, getting up here into Massachusetts and the southern flank of Vermont and New Hampshire, and heading into Maine. This is actually some snowfall estimates over a 24-hour period from that Saturday afternoon to that Sunday afternoon, taking advantage of that low pressure center off the coast here, wrapping in that colder air on the backside. Then we'll be trending out west, where we have a renewed threat of much colder air as those teleconnections start to go decisively negative. That will drop another pretty significant low pressure center, tapping into even a colder source by then. So this is your Monday time frame heading into that January 8th. That's when things really start to get cranking, because this low pressure really deepens here down into New Mexico, into the Texas Panhandle. This is even going to have some of the coldest air associated with it of the season. And looking at the ensemble members, this rapidly starts to deepen. And looking at the overall European ensembles, yeah, this takes it down to a pretty significantly low pressure, anywhere from a 990 all the way down to a 974 millibar low pressure, coming in through Arkansas, through Missouri, into Illinois, through Indiana, into Ohio, back into Kentucky. This would continue lifting northeast, encompassing a good part with very high winds associated with it, and likely some pretty significant snows are going to be on the way for this region across the Ohio Valley and eventually heading up into the Great Lakes. And this would likely encompass parts of the Mid-Atlantic as well, as we're looking at for a significant snowstorm likely going to be building across this region through that 8th, 9th, 10th time frame of January. And it's got the coldest air of the season coming in off the backside. So you're kind of laying down the groundwork right now as the colder air will start to come, encompassing a good part of, you know, western Canada again, back into the western regions of the US, and eventually getting into the central US, tapping into that low pressure center. As it traverses across, it's going to bring some pretty significant snow. So looking at some of the latest runs, this is the latest model run of the European guidance. Look at those isobars, folks. The tighter those isobars, the more significant winds, and that's a 984. Yeah, a lot of the ensembles print out a 975. So this likely continues going to deepen, and it's going to have some pretty significant snows with it as well. So we're going to be another system coming through, diving across New Mexico, coming through the Texas Panhandle. And then it starts to rapidly deepen with snow across Oklahoma, through Kansas, into Nebraska, through Iowa, and then eventually that will be swinging into the Ohio Valley. And if we print out all 51 members of the European guidance and kind of zoom in into that area of the Ohio Valley, look at those ensembles painting a pretty bullish picture on a pretty significant snowstorm that will likely build across this region. This is the 8th, 9th, 10th time frame. So we'll be fine tuning this, but right now the ensembles are printing out at least 40 to 50%, printing out a pretty significant snowstorm that will be building across this region as these low pressures likely take it down anywhere from a 990 all the way down to possibly a 974 millibar low pressure, with some pretty significant winds and some heavier snows are going to be encompassing this area. And that's exactly what the Climate Prediction Center is also highlighting as well. So you got the more active subtropical jet stream that's going to be coming across the first week. And then the second week, you have that piece of energy that comes through on the 6th time frame. But then you even have the stronger system that dives in next Monday, the 8th time frame, and that's the one that really looks to be significant, bringing some heavier snows across the Texas Panhandle, through Oklahoma, through Kansas, through Missouri, here up here into Iowa, into portions of Minnesota, as well as Wisconsin. That it does encompass all of Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, and parts of the Mid-Atlantic as well. You'll have the heavier snows as well through the Appalachians, through this region of eastern PA, as well as portions of New York. But look at the precipitation, folks. Pretty rare that the Climate Prediction Center almost has the entire lower 48 above average precipitation tapping into that colder air. So it's not like we're going to be lacking any precipitation with these low pressures. There's going to be plenty of it. And so the higher the water content, obviously the higher these snow amounts can be. And these will likely be the most significant snowstorm we've seen so far this season. If you lay down to looking at the ensembles and kind of break it down over the next 10 days, it has that system coming through. You've got these, again, you got these systems coming through every 2 or 3 days or so. So the first setup is more likely a rain event. But once we get into that second setup on Friday, heading into Saturday, that's the one that's going to be coming across, and you have that other one that's going to be printing out here towards the mid-Atlantic and up here in portions of the Northeast. And then, of course, you have that more significant one that's going to be building across that 8th, 9th, and 10th time frame. So this is the likelihood where that snow would be likely falling within this region. We can't give you any pressing amounts as far as snow amounts, but the ensembles, well, like I showed you, are printing some pretty significant snows with that particular snowstorm. And then what I mentioned, laying the groundwork. So I showed you the snow cover right now, and then you have the combination of the teleconnections trending negative. And this week, heading into that 8th, 9th, 10th time frame, we're going to be laying down a renewed snowpack across a good part of the country. And then you have that cold pressing air coming in on the backside around January the 11th time frame, encompassing most of Canada and most of the lower 48 below average, if not almost well below average. And then keep on tapping into that more active subtropical jet stream. So that would obviously trend that snow line a little bit further south. So as the cold air continues to press, then you would have these systems coming across every 2 or 3 days or so, tapping into that energy. And that would obviously bring the snow line further south by then. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch my next update. Wire protect you before and after the storm.